Folks, today we're going to talk about 7 things that narcissists absolutely hate. So right off the bat, the thing to understand with narcissism is this is a personality disorder in which the person has had a psychotic break with reality, and now they're in a grandiose fantasy state where they believe that they are the center of the universe. They think they're the best thing that exists. They're in a constant fight and a constant competition with everybody that they have to win. The reason why I mentioned that at the beginning is because it informs all of the things that they hate. The number one thing that narcissists hate is the word no. Narcissists believing psychotically and in a delusional way that they are the center of the universe and the most important person on the planet do not want to be told no. Now, it doesn't matter how politely or friendly this no comes, they don't want to hear it. And it's almost a functional test to see if somebody has a personality disorder that's in the cluster B spectrum, which is to just smilingly and politely tell them no for something that you don't want to give them or a service you don't want to provide, and just say to them, no, I'm not going to do that, and this is the reason why, and see what their response is. It should never be a tantrum to hear no from another adult who's refusing to offer you some kind of a favor or a service. So no is the number one thing that narcissists hate to hear. The second thing that narcissists really hate, really hate, are other people's boundaries. I would even go so far as to say that if a narcissist detects or sniffs that a person has good, strong boundaries, they almost won't bother with them at all. Because it's going to be very hard for them to work their game on that person. It's going to be very hard for them to hook them in and get them into the dreamlike state that they need them to be in to parasitically feed off their flesh. If they are strong and boundaried and clear, they'll probably just leave them alone. They need people with weak boundaries. These are usually not the strongest and the bravest folks amongst us. They're pretty cowardly, and they tend to prefer to prey upon the weak. When I say the weak, I mean people like me. I've been in now 3 narcissistically abusive relationships. Why? Because of weak external and internal boundaries due to various reasons, CPTSD and childhood trauma and that kind of thing. The kind of stuff that we all have to go to therapy for if we're struggling with it. The third thing that narcissists really hate, and this is because of their tremendous envy, is other people's skill or talent. It is impossible for someone with NPD to be happy for another person who is being recognized, especially if they're being recognized for a skill or a talent. But even if they're not recognized, if the person with NPD sees they have a skill, sees they have a talent, they will become #triggered. They'll be provoked, they'll be pricked into a narcissistic injury because they then fear and get this status anxiety of, oh my God, this person could get recognized for this skill or this talent, even if it's their own child. To the point where they may actively try to discourage the child from engaging in that skill or that talent, or go one step further and even sabotage their chances there. So the third thing narcissists absolutely hate because of their fragility and their hyper-competitiveness is other people's skill and talent, and they especially hate it if that skill or that talent gets recognized, because they're still toddlers and they'll think all that attention that's going to them should be mine. Number 4, this will surprise nobody who's lived with a narcissist, nobody who's had a partner who's a narcissist. Being told they're wrong. Ooh, this is heavy. You try telling or showing a narcissist that they're wrong, you're in for a rocky few days. You're in for some turbulence. So they absolutely hate to be told, or shown is worse, that they are just flat out wrong. Why? Because in that psychotic break where they chose to live inside of a delusional reality in which they're all-knowing, all-powerful, and omnipotent, they decided that they couldn't be wrong. They decided that they were always right, no matter what. And so showing them and telling them that they're wrong shatters the illusion. It threatens the illusion. And anything that threatens this psychotic grandiose delusion in which they're amazing is perceived as a threat and is taken as a narcissistic injury, and it induces a narcissistic rage. So if you tell them they're wrong, you can expect a goodly dose of narcissistic rage as a reward for your observation. The fifth thing that narcissists really, really hate is the moments or the experiences or the people that cause them to realize that their delusion is a delusion and that they are living in a fantasy. I think all people with NPD cycle through phases of elation and depletion. I suspect that all NPD is compensatory and all NPD is at root fragile. It's a fight for supply. It's a fight to run away from reality. And I think every once in a while, they lose that fight, as inevitably they would, because it's so much hard work. You've got to manipulate all people all the time. You've got to gaslight people all the time. You even have to gaslight yourself into changing your perception of reality so that you can see good as bad and bad as good. And even with all that work, every once in a while, a little bit reality is going to sneak through, and it's going to cause a tremendous amount of pain and narcissistic injury. So they really, really hate experiences and feedback from the world that says you're delusional. You're not amazing. You're not special. You're not worthy of all the attention and praise you think you are. And you're not worthy of the special treatment that you think you are. You're the same as everybody else and you have to play by the same rules as everybody else. This simple adult realization, you're the same as everybody else and you have to play by the same rules as everybody else, is so horrendous to this house of cards personality that it can trigger a full-blown breakdown. And this can happen. There can be narcissistic collapse. If there's enough negative feedback coming one after the other that shatters the narcissist's illusion, they can actually completely collapse. The sixth thing that narcissists absolutely hate is to lose supply. Now, not all supply is created equal. So every once in a while, I'll get somebody who will send me a message or an email and they'll say to me, why am I being pursued obsessively by my ex-wife or by my ex-husband or whoever? I thought that they just saw all of us as supply. They do see all human beings as supply. But then that means that we're all the same. Why doesn't he just go after another woman? Why didn't she just go after another man? Because not all supply is the same. Not all cocaine is the same. Some human supply is like high-grade, pure Colombian grade stuff with no nonsense inside of it. And they really, really need that. They want the highest grade supply possible because it feels better to them. They literally function like drug addicts. And human attention is their drug of choice. Not all human attention is the same. If you were more of an intellectual style narcissist, you would want to receive your supply from PhDs and professors and academics and authors. If you were more of a body-based, sexual, hypersexual narcissist, of course you would prefer to receive your supply from physically beautiful people who could validate you that you're physically beautiful and you're amazing in bed and so on and so forth. So there are different types of supply where they absolutely hate to lose supply, especially if they feel that they had that supply and then they lost control over it. That's the worst. So if the supply they got woke up from their spell and just walked off, that is the worst thing imaginable. Because not only do they lose the supply, they lose their delusional fantasy that they're omnipotent. The seventh thing that narcissists really, really hate is to see people happy. And I don't mean drunk or laughing or momentarily experiencing some kind of pleasure. I mean actual, authentic, in the bones joy. They hate that. It brings on, and this is my humble opinion, based on what I've observed, a kind of terror in them. They can become very anxious, and that anxiety can lead to like a disproportionate level of aggression when they see genuine joy and happiness in other people. Why? Two reasons. One, I think it's something that they know they can never experience themselves. So they feel ostracized and alienated from a desirable experience. And I think the second thing is, A truly happy, joyous person, they can't access them. They can't provoke them. They can't manipulate them. They can't use them because that person doesn't need anything from them. In a sense, you could argue the narcissists can really only sink their teeth and claws into a person who is missing something, who's like me, doesn't have good boundaries, or is lonely, or is isolated, or is struggling with emotional dysregulation or an addiction. There are a number of stories I've got from people where the narcissistic relationship began when they arrived in a new country or a new city. They were isolated, they were away from their friends, they were away from their family, they felt vulnerable, they felt lonely, and in swoops in some kind, friendly, quirky, lovely person to show them around the city, and then the gateway to hell opens. Narcissistic abuse is pernicious, and the effects of it long-term can be really, really nasty and very, very hard to overcome. There isn't a huge amount of understanding about this, even amongst psychotherapists and counselors. I see narcissistic abuse as a kind of colonization of the victim's mind. They put their thoughts, their ideas, their dreams, their fantasies into that person and force them to live it. This is a kind of possession. If you feel like you're thinking about, you're too obsessed with, you're kind of colonized by or possessed by a narcissistic personality, and you would rather not be, I have a course on breaking narcissistic possession. It's available from this link below. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. Please leave us a like, subscribe here, and I look forward to speaking to you all again very soon. Thank you.